Hello everybody. Yesterday I was able to walk you through and kind of give you a quick overview of what the three plugins for Grasshopper are capable of doing, what the workflows are, but it wasn't really very specific. So today I'm just gonna kind of narrow down my focus, and I'm gonna show you specifically how to import that geometry step by step, how to create the Revit family, what are the things that you need to look out for, and how to set up your Grasshopper definition to work with the Grevit, specifically, not all of them. So that at the end you get something like this. And I'm going to break it down into a series of tutorials, and then so in this first one I'm just going to show you how to get the geometry, and then the next one maybe I'll show you how to get some more parameters in and stuff like that, and then maybe in the final I'll show you how to put those in sheets and document them. So for now, let's go back to let's close this and let's go back to Grasshopper. So I'm going to focus on just the vertical pieces for now, so I'm just gonna turn off the horizontal stuff. So imagine this is your framing for some sort of structure, and you want to recreate that in Revit. The way you will go about this is to set up a definition. I'm gonna start it from scratch, and I'm gonna walk you through every step of the way. Actually, let's just start a new one. Alright, first things first, you want to collect the curves that you have on the screen. So you can type in curve, and then right click, set multiple curves, select all these, space. So here are your curves. So there should be roughly 11 curves. Now, the next step in this process would be I want to recreate those as a 3-point arc. So I want to collect first, middle, and last point on each one of those curves. So let's use evaluate curve component. So you want to plug your curves in there, and then you want to graph them. The reason why I want to graph them is because I want each one of those curves to be on a separate branch, and right now they're flattened. So I'm thinking about, you can graph it over here. So this is what I want it to look like. Each one of them on a separate component, or you can graph them on the input. So I usually like to graph them on the input, just because I might be using those curves somewhere else. So you graph them on the input, and then if you bring down a panel, if you double click that panel, type in 0.0, enter 0.5, enter 1.0, and if you right click on that panel and then change it to multi-line data. So what I'm doing right now is I'm telling it to evaluate each one of those curves at those points, at the 0, 0.5, at 1.0. And right now you see that the point's kind of freaked out a little bit. That's because you also want to reparametricize those curves, so that each one of those curves is defined somewhere between 0 and 1. So now every one of them gets 3 points, and we can collect those 3 points, and you can see them right here. So this is where we're going to need those 3 points are the points that we're going to need to create our families in Revit as an adaptive component. So I also like to simplify those just to keep my data structure clean. The next step, which is a little bit unfortunate with Grevit, let's actually drop in the Grevit components. So we're going to need the send button at the end. This is what we're shooting for, and we're going to need the family and type adaptive component. So we know that this is going to go in here, and we always want to flatten that. And then we're going to need a button, so if you just type in button and then hook it up to send, this is going to be our activating button. So now these are the parameters that we gotta fill in. So the points we already have, we can plug that in. Now we need a family name and a family type. So we can just use a. We don't have a Revit family yet, so we can just imagine that it's going to be a 3-point arc. So let's just name it 3-point arc. So this will be our family name in Revit. Gotta make sure that that's what we save it as, and you plug that into both family and type. Now the parameters, if we wanted to shoot parameters through, we can do that, but it's not important for this part of the tutorial for now. For now, it's just going to transfer geometry. So here are our curves. Here's our evaluation to get the 3 points that will make up the curve, and then our components for sending it out. So once we have that, we need to go into Revit, and we have to create a corresponding family in Revit that's a 3-point arc with the start, middle, and end point. So let's have Revit load up. And I want to create a new family, and I want this family to be a generic model adaptive. So you want to hit open. So once here in Revit, you want to have a 3-point adaptive family. So we grab the point and we drop those points on the plane, and then you can select them in order, holding Control, and then make adaptive. So now this is our start, middle, end. Now what we have to do is create a reference and then a 3-point start and radius arc, which is a 3-point arc, and then make sure that we have the 3D snapping on, and we'll click on first, last, middle, and if you stretch it, you see that the arc follows. Now in order to create an extrusion like a tube, give it a radius and give a radius to that tube, we want to drop a point, and I'm actually going to drop 2 just to make sure, because sometimes Revit tends to freak out a little bit. So I'm actually going to do a sweep between 2 profiles versus a sweep on just one profile, like an extrusion on path. I'm going to do a sweep blend. So you would select those 2 points, and this is just for me. I like to visualize those better, so I check this show reference plane always, so I can see the reference planes on each one of those points. And you want to set that plane to be active, and then on that plane, pick a reference, and then a circle. And then if you hit tab, if you hover over it, the first one is an end point. And then if you tab, you'll get to point. So you just drag it out, and then if you activate that dimension, if you select that dimension, you can add parameter for a radius of that tube that we're going to be creating. You can call this, let's call this tube radius, and I'm going to keep this a type. I want all of those to be the same, and then you hit OK. And then you'll do the same thing on the other one, so set the plane, reference, circle, tab, activate the dimension, select the dimension, add parameter tube radius. And now if we select first, then the path, and then the second radius, you can create form, and it sweeps in between those 2. So now if I drag this point, that sweep travels with it. So if I take that point and set its parameter, so normalized curve parameter. So this tells you where the point is on that curve. If I set this one to 0, they will set it to the beginning of the curve. And if I set this one to be 1, that will put it at the end of the curve. And now you don't want the tube radius to be 3 feet, so just set it to something more like 4 inches. So here's our tube. Now you want to save as this family, and I'm just going to dump it on the desktop, and I'm going to call this. So now if I go back here, this is going to be the name of my family. So I'm just going to copy this, go back to Revit, save as family on the desktop, paste. This will be my family name and type. Save, and you load that into a project. I don't have any projects open yet, so let's open a new project. And I'm using Control Tab to switch between windows. So load that into the project, and let's see if it works. I'm just going to place it 1, 2, 3, and there you go. It places the family that we just created. So let's delete it. So once we have the family that we want to load in with the proper name, another step, we have to go back to Grasshopper, and I forgot one more step to make sure that we're getting everything right. Grevit uses internally uses feet, so if our project's set up with different units, we might have a problem on the transfer. So let's check what units we're using in that Rhino file. First thing, I'm using TT Toolbox's unit converter to check for units. So you want to set up those parameters. So your target unit, you want feet, since Revit uses feet. You actually want to use a panel. So you want this to be feet, because that's what Revit uses. And I believe that I can't spell. I believe my units for this project are set up in millimeters for Rhino. So I'll copy and paste this panel, change it to millimeters. That's my source. And then I can use either if you double click and type in number 1, those two parameters, it's the factor and then exponent. So this just tells me that I just want to convert them directly from feet to millimeters. I mean, other way around, from millimeters to feet. So what it gives me is that the value gives me the exact number that I have to multiply all of the units that are coming out of Grasshopper to get them converted to feet. So once you have this set up, all you need to do is go in math, multiplication, you grab that factor, and then all the points before they get plugged into this points parameter for the family and type adaptive component, you want to send them through that unit converter and then plug them back into points. Once you have that, you should be good to go. Let's test it out. Let's test it out, and alright, let's go back to Revit, go to Add-ins, Grevit, and then I have to go back to Rhino, activate it, come back to Revit, hit OK, zoom to fit, and there you go. Here are your adaptive component families. And since I made that radius for each one of those two a type parameters, so if you add a type, you can change the tube radius globally for all of them to, let's say, make them thinner. Let's make them 2 inches, and you can see them all update to 2 inches. So there you go. Here are the steps. to get some geometry out of Grasshopper to Revit. I hope you enjoyed it, and look out for another series where I'm going to do the vertical short stubs. It will be a different family, and then I'm going to do some parameter transfers as well. Alright, thanks for watching.